I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gathered. Secondly, I congratulate the Armenian Genocide Commemorative Committee for organizing the event to commemorate the 103rd anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. Furthermore, I acknowledge my federal, state, and local government colleagues. I also wish to acknowledge the chair of the New South Wales Parliamentary Friends of Armenia, Jonathan O'Day. Jonathan and I disagree on many policy grounds, but on the recognition of the Armenian Genocide, we are united. My name is Walt Secord. I'm here as a senior member of the New South Wales Labour Party and deputy chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Armenia. And I have to admit that following an Armenian premier at an Armenian commemoration in our home crowd is a tough act to follow. But I am here today as a friend of the Armenian community representing the Labour Party, but also as a person committed to preventing and commemorating genocide. That is, as the son of a full-blooded Mohawk Ojibwe Indian and a European mother born in southern Canada. I believe that all genocides require constant remembrance. I believe it is only by truly acknowledging what happened that we can prevent acts of genocide from happening again or happening in the future. Earlier this year, I had the honor to participate in the banquet acknowledging the 20th anniversary of the New South Wales Parliament's recognition of the Armenian Genocide. It was the first in Australia for a parliament, and it had both the support of the then Labour government and the opposition. Initiatives like that and tonight's commemoration are especially important when there is only a handful of survivors of the Armenian Genocide in the entire world, and sadly there are no survivors alive in Australia. But that is why it is important to be persistent in our efforts. And that is why tonight, as well as being a commemoration of the Armenian Genocide, is actually a celebration and a recognition of the survival of the Armenian people. Ladies and gentlemen, in my own capacity in the last 6 years as a parliamentarian, I've traveled as part of my personal exploration of genocide and oppression around the world, and I've visited Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland, Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, the National Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, Halabja in Iraqi Kurdistan, and Yerevan's National Genocide Museum. Furthermore, as part of my personal education of the Armenian Genocide and the Armenian people, I've visited Armenia twice, Nagorno-Karabakh, Javak, Western Armenia, the ancient ruins of Kars Ani Van, as well as Masis and Poker Masis. To my deep pleasure, every time I visit a community around the world, whether it's Singapore, Lisbon, Van, Kars, Ani, Yerevan, I discover and encounter a new aspect of Armenian history and how the Armenian community has contributed to humanity. My own personal historical background and my visits to Armenian sites and other sites of genocide have led me to ask two things. How do these things happen? And secondly, how do we as a society prevent genocide from occurring? After all, the perpetrators of such atrocities rely on their deeds being overlooked in time. In fact, in Turkey, I actually visited a museum dedicated to denying the Armenian genocide. We know that those who seek to cover up genocide, try to hide or deny such history, only serve to make it possible again. That is why, as we've said several times this evening, quoting Hitler in August 1939, who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians? Those who commit atrocities today rely on the fact that people will forget tomorrow. In fact, I believe that denial is actually the last stage of the act of genocide. Genocides happen because people forget, do not remember, or they are covered up or denied. That is why we are here tonight. Over 4 years, 1.5 million out of a population of 2.5 million Armenians were systematically murdered. Remembering these events is the reason why we gather tonight. But we also celebrate the survival of the Armenian people. On a final note, I pledge to continue to explore and learn more about the Armenian people and the Armenian genocide. But I also have to admit that I have very, very complex and contradictory views on Turkey. But I am forever an optimist. And one day, I hope that there'll be diplomatic recognition between Turkey and Armenia. And quoting Abraham Lincoln, that the better angels of our nature prevail, and that one day, Ankara wrestles truly with its past and recognizes the genocide perpetrated against the Armenian people. But there have been positive developments in the last few years. June 2016, Germany recognized the Armenian genocide, and earlier this year, the Netherlands recognized the Armenian genocide. Now, at times, I know this audience and the community, and many of us are frustrated, but we must ask ourselves a very difficult question. Are we further ahead? Do more people know about the Armenian genocide? And the answer that I think we should tell ourselves is that yes, more people know about the Armenian genocide, and it is due to the efforts and activities and commemorations like this, as well as the activities of the ANC. So on that note, I thank you, and thank you very much.